Hey guys, welcome back. So, in this episode, what I'm going to be doing is catching you up on the project I'm doing, and this is an ongoing project to make it better than what I started out with. I'm into revision B, and there's a C going to be coming, but that's on hold for a little bit at the moment while I sort out a few bits in the firmware of B. So, anyway guys, grab yourself a drink, a few little snacks, and that comfy chair, and let's get on with it. So, here we are guys. So this is the revision A board that I originally built because I wanted to test a few ICs I had, and I was having mixed messages from people saying it could be faulty, it could be a fake, rebadged chip or something like that. And I thought there's got to be a way of checking for that. So the rabbit hole. So anyway, this is revision A. This was my proof of concept, and this proved that what I wanted to do, I could do. And that's why it's a little messy. I went to revision B, and that's what's under here. And revision B is a stacked board. So the flying leads I had here, this was only, as I said, for proof of concept to make sure it worked and make sure my wiring was right, etc. I have gone a little bit further with revision B, and that is that I have done away from the next button, and I have kept the test button, but I've also incorporated the rotary encoder switch in revision B as well. So I wanted that so I can actually have a menu that changes, but there's more on that as we go along. I do have this now revision on here as revision B working and working reliably. The software I have updated now, the firmware for this is revision B2, and that is because I've added into it a counting system. It counts how many chips in the current session you have tested and how many have failed and how many have passed. And it also adds to a global, so it keeps a continual rolling tally of how many chips you've tested, how many have failed, and how many have been faulty. And each time you power this up, it keeps that. It writes it into a JSON file on the Pico, and then when you turn it on, it loads your session file up as an empty file, and then adds them in from there as it goes along, and then rewrites the JSON file out after each test. So, a pile of ICs I have done, mainly HCs at the moment. I do have a lot of LS chips I'm going through to check as well, so bear with me. I'm picking probably another couple of weeks before I'm ready to look at releasing the GitHub page on the revision B, and it will also be on PCBWay shared projects. I will have a BOM list, but it's not going to be PCBWay's BOM list. I find it's a pain because I have to try and put down the exact manufacturer of every of the surface mount parts I want to put on, and the only surface mount on this are the protection diodes, and these aren't that bad to do. If you've got a fine tip, these are not that bad to solder on, and I'm going to build a revision B board anyway and take you through those steps. Very similar to this, so I'll show you the boards. The full packs are in here, and this is the revision B. So that's our base board, and I've made these so they stack on top of each other with header connectors. So this is the revision B board, and it's still running the standard. It's protection diodes and resistors. I have added its own power supply now, so it'll take 5 volts and anywhere from 5 volts 2 amps, 5 volts 3 amps in. It regulates out to a IC that does the voltage regulation down to the 3.3 volts, and that's good for up to, I think it's about 2 amps or more in the 3.3 volts, which should be more than enough, even with the short circuit protection on this for a shorter chip, and that it'll only allow you to pull up to about an amp, 1.2, maybe 1.5 amps. So that's it. I've left the test button on the baseboard just as a bring up option, so that's there. You don't have to put that in because it is also on the top board, and this is the top board that will sit over top of the baseboard with the headers that plug into it, and it stacks on top. And I'll just pop this back in there. I don't have my eyes on me, so I may not find holes very well, but this is the top board, and the OLED goes here, the ZIF socket goes here. This is a 20 pin one. Rotary encoder, that'll be our switch there. The LED will be here. The buzzer goes there. This is a power LED to tell us when the mains is plugged in and turned on. And then this gap here is for this to go in, and the voltage selector for whether we're running 3.3 volt ICs or 5 volt ICs. So, but that's been made, so these are going to be on leads. That's that one, and this is going to be the on off on selector for whether you want 3 volts or 5 volts. You can use probably any type because these are going to go into a case, and I'm going to design a case for this. So these are going to go into a case, and they can be on wires to be mounted anywhere in the case, and then you can plug them into the headers on the main board. And that's why I did it that way, because you may want to make a slightly different case to one what I'm going to have. So that's what we're going to do with this, and it's going to take this and put it into there. Now I'm going to reuse the MCU and the Pico and the rotary encoder and the screen. Now I just put a extender on this here to bring it up, so I had a bit of room to put things down. The piezo I'm not going to use because I found that the passive ones running the 3.3 volts, they were too low a volume. And instead of mucking around with it, I decided to go to an active one. They're a lot louder, and they're not so much to make sounds out of, it's to make the buzzing noise out of it. And it'll do beeps for errors or a beep if it goes through, etc. And the LED tells you that anyway. But I will do a video on this running and everything so you can see exactly what it's doing. I must say I am quite pleased with how this is and where it's up to at the moment. I just want to refine it a little bit more, try out a few more chips so I've got the whole family of ICs in the 7.4 series. I'm not doing all of them. There are some that are not standard 7.4 series pinouts. And by standard, a lot of the ICs, they'll have pin 20, which is up the top here, as I'm pretty sure it is up here, sorry. So pin 20 is the power pin, and then on this side generally you'll find it's either 7, 8 or 10 down the outside here is generally your ground pin, and that's how most of the standard 7.4 series ones do. The revision C I'm working on, which I've got about probably 85% done now, that's going a step above this. I was going to make the boards so I could take this off and put one on. I may still do that with a LCD screen with a 2.4, 2.8 inch one, but it means I'm going to run more pin headers up here, and that just gets a bit messy. So the revision C is actually going to go to a Pico 2350B, and that gives me way more pins that I can use, and it's going to be a lot more easier to implement on the revision C. The revision C is going to be a diagnostics and testing board, and it's going to run an LCD. So these ones, unfortunately, these will do what I want. These are exactly what I need. The only thing is I didn't realise these had the large SD socket on the back, but you can get the adapter that goes into that, and you can put the micro SDs into it, which is what I'm going to do. But these are going to be the screens on the revision C, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to sit on top here, but the revision C is also going to have 28 pin. It's still going to have the encoder, and we're going to probably do away with the push button. I don't know quite yet, but we'll still have a power LED on the top and a pin selection color LED. But this is not just going to do ICs, it's going to auto detect them. It'll probably incorporate doing basic RAM, ROMs, and that type of thing, and it will do the other chips that aren't done on this. And this one will do the 4000 series and some of the weird chips like the 74LS83 and things like that don't have standard pin out for the power on them, and those ones are probably going to have a little daughter board I'm going to make that'll go into this, and with JTS connectors you can jumper the pins to how you want them for that chip. So if you have a weird power connector, you can jumper which pin it is to a standard pin out on the board itself, so you can actually get what pins you want to go where. So it's going to be like a little breakout board that you can do that with. Alright, so that's what we're going to be doing with that. There's be more on that coming along after revision B has been released. And as I say, I'm picking, this is probably going to be a couple of weeks, and that's not so much building the board, that's more finishing off the firmware so that revision B2 is where I'd like it to be. And I've tested every IC I have here, and I have found some faulty ones so far, and these are some of them are the brand new, some of them are the old ones, some of them are from out of machines I've repaired, and I wanted to make sure that they are faulty, and they are. But all the documentation will have all sorts of information on it, and how I got results I did, and also be aware some ICs in the 74 series are not all the same. The same model of IC, so you could have say a 74 LS or HC or HCT, say 138, and you can have Texas Instruments, you could have National Semiconductor, you could have, there's different manufacturers of the ICs. Some of them swap the pins around. Be very careful with that. In the documentation I will tell you what chip I have tested it with, and what I'd like to do is when this repo is up and running and it's live, if you want to add any others, and you can put the verification information with what you've done, then I can add it to the main database, and if you try a different brand of chip, then we can go through and add that on as well. So most of the ones I've checked have been Texas Instruments, so they're the standard setup for most of the ICs, but do remember some of them aren't standard pin out for their power. So I got caught with that with one or two when I was doing the databases for this. Alright, so that's where we're up to, and this is where I'm going to get on to and build the board. So I will give you snippets of me building the board. I'm not going to sit here and let you sit through hours of soldering and so forth. I'll show you little bits of it as I go along, and then at the end we will sit down, and maybe not in this but in a part 2, power it on, show you it working, show you how it works and what it does, and from there by that time I should have the GitHub repository available. Version 1 will be in there, but that is more for history than anything else. So this was the concept, and then from this we've gone to this, and from this it's gone to a better version of this. Revision C is not going to be in that same repository because it's evolved into a totally different beast. It'll be on its own repository, so that'll come up on its own. Alright, so enough yapping from me. I think it's about time to move this out the way, and the box out the way, and these other bits out the way. And a few bits in from AliExpress. The wire. This is the wiring I'm going to use for these switches. This was some old PC power supply wiring I used because this thin stuff kept breaking. This is too heavy. It keeps pulling the connector out of the board when I move it around. So I had a look and I got some of this, and I think it's 26 gauge, 26 or something like that. It's thicker than this, which is what I want because this is too thin. And so that I'm going to use for this and for the switch, for that switch as well. I'm going to use this. And you can buy this in 6 colour core. And it was cheap. It wasn't that expensive to buy. I think there's something like about 10 meters of it here. More than I'm going to need, but that's what I got. So guys, there's a bit of information on what's happening, and as I say, I'll get on to building this revision B. If you want to stick around, you can stick around and watch it. The other thing I've started is I've started a Buy Me a Coffee, or a Ko-Fi, or whatever you want to call it. So if you want to help with these projects and repairs to others that I've got to do and that I do for free for people, and I do as a open source project, then I'd really be grateful for you to do that, because it just helps pay for all this, the revisions of boards and that. Even though they're not expensive, they can be over time, especially if you make a board and there's one fault on it. Well, that's wasted. You got to bin all that lot and redo it and get another set. Some of the newer boards I'm doing, they are finer than the ones, the ICs that have got to go on the space board, and my eyes, I can't do it, so I've got to get them refabbed in-house. So there's that cost as well, and sometimes they're not that cheap. And considering now they've given you the option to do you want 2 boards done, or all 5 done, or all 10 done. So it's really nice. Now I can say, no, just fabricate 2 boards with parts for 2 boards, and just give me the other boards as blanks. So that's a really nice option you can get done now. Alright, so enough of me yapping. I'll get on with this, and I'll bring you back and we'll start building this board up. Right guys, so I'm getting this board ready, and to make this stackable, because the Pico's on the bottom and the header for the switches on the bottom here, and it's probably going to be in the way of the board going on top, what I've done is I'm going to put in these single row header strips, and you get them in 40 pin. They're just standard JTS. These are about 10 mil, I think they are high, about 10 mil high, and they have about 4 mil or so of pin out the bottom. Those are going to go on the baseboards. Now, to get me the height, because there is no standard tool sockets, I am using 30 mil header pins, and the 30 mil is this top part. That's the length of this top part. You can get them in 20s, and your standards normal boards are 10 mil. That's your standard 10 mil one for your normal boards, and your 20s are a little bit taller, and then your 30s again are a little bit taller again. And these, because when they go inside the socket, if you'd use a 20 or a 10, it's not going to touch, because these will go into the top board from the bottom. So these will come from underneath here, they'll go on, and then when the board goes down, it goes into those connectors, and that's what actually connects the 2 boards together. So I'm using 30s. I thought 20s might just do it, but I think that's going to be a little bit tight with the wiring for the switch. I'd rather have it a little bit taller than too tight and they pull out. So that's why I'm going with this. And these will only go down, I think it's 10 mil. It'll go down and then it'll stop. It won't go any physically further. So you're going to be 30 mils above the board, which is more than enough to go across the top of the Pico. And if worst comes to worst, if we like to, we can always put a bit of insulation on the back here, foam insulation or something on here, just in case we're worried about shorting, or on top of the Pico. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use those. I've got a few of these. I've got these, and I've got piles of these. So that's one thing that'll be in the BOM you need to remember, is that you're going to need the 30 mils. But all that information will be in the bill of materials for you anyway. But that's what I'm doing for this. Alright, I just thought I'd let you know. So I will now get on and start putting the smallest component on first, which are going to be the protection diodes. And these are here just in case there's a dead short or a shorted set of pins and it tries to come back into the Pico. These are here to dump it to ground and not kill the Pico. Alright, so that's what these are here for. So they are doing a specific job, which is protecting your Pico. So you should never have a problem with the Pico, unless you do it really drastically wrong. Anyway, I will get on with this and I will start putting these on. And I just thought I'd let you know about that, how I'm actually getting it to stand off on the board. And that's what I will do. I will carry on and do the protection diodes now. Right, so I'm just getting ready. I just got all the parts that I needed. These are the protection diodes. I've got my big iron tip on here, so what I'm going to do is take this off. I have a whole pile of different ones, but I only usually use the big tip unless I'm doing really fine bits like I'm doing at the moment, and then I'll put my small tip on. I do need to get myself a T12 or 210 or something along those lines, a newer soldering iron that's faster to heat up than this. But this was cheap. It's reliable. It does me well. It's reliable. It takes a second or two to heat up, but hey, I'm not in a race. You know, I'm building projects, repairing vintage PCs and that, so I'm not in a race to do it. Anyway, that's on. I will turn him on and get him going. I will get me solder. And what I will do is I'm going to have to get some more flux. Is I put a little bit of dollop of flux on one of the pins. And then what I do is I hold it with a pair of tweezers and I touch it to get that one soldered down. So once that one is soldered, then I'll hold it down with the tweezers or with my pick, and then I will make sure it's sitting properly, and I'll make sure it's lined up on all the pads, and once it is okay and lined up, then I'll solder the other two. And that's how I do it. And I just take my time. I don't rush it. I'm not in a race. I suppose if you wanted to, you could probably get solder paste, put solder paste on these, and then pop them all down, and then put them on a hot plate and get them all soldered all at once if you want. But this way I like to do this, and then I can go over and check each one to make sure that it is soldered properly. So that's what I'm going to do. There is another thing I was just going to tell you earlier I forgot about, but so this is I reviewed this on my tools and things like that just recently on a new video, and this is for precise putting solder paste on things or from the syringes rather than trying to push them down and you find it's too hard. And it comes with spare nozzles too, which is nice. A little bit of flapping around to change these over, but it's not a lot of mucking around like you do now. But that's what this is. The other thing I was going to say to you is that I've got a digital microscope for zooming in on this, and it's one that's been reviewed on a few other channels, and it looks quite good. So it means I'll be able to capture on here with it. I haven't set it up. It's only turned up with this other stuff today, so I haven't had a chance to set it up and see how we go with it. That's something I'm going to have to do, and maybe when we come back to part 2 on this, we can have a look at it then. Alright, so I'm just going to go through and start getting these, and I'll get the tweezers and everything, and then I'm going to start popping these on so you can see how I do it. And then I will just zap through and do the rest of them. And these protection diodes, as I say, there's about 75 in that. I got a row of 100. I think 100 of these was something like about $2, if that. You know, that's what I say, they are so cheap. And for what they're going to do and what they'll do for the board, they are priceless for what they are, for the cost of them. But anyway, enough yapping, I'll get me tweezers and we'll start. And that's the other nice pair of sharp tweezers where the points come together. These ones are a bit battle scarred and I really need to get some new ones. I was looking at the porcelain ones, but I'm not 100% sure with them because I'm picking the porcelain tips are going to be quite bulky, whereas these are quite slim. I might look at these in a stainless so I can get them so they're not so soft on the ends and they don't bend as easy on the ends. But that's my biggest problem with them. And these protection diodes, the thing you want to do is try and get them out one at a time. Like that was one that just came out. And there he is there. I will bring it up to you so you can see what I'm talking about. That's him on there. Now that's tiny. Now I can't really do tiny stuff, but he has 3 legs. He has one leg on this side, one leg here, and one leg here. So they're opposite each other in relation to putting them down. So I can do that. So that for me, I just got to have my good glasses on or my big magnifier on, and I can solder these on fine. So that's why I got the digital microscope too. So I need to start doing more of this stuff. There's another chip here which is just doable for me, and that's the 2 amp or 2.5 amp 3.3 volt regulator. I could have gone with a module, but the problem is the module then becomes bulky, and I want to cut the bulk down. It's cheaper building it into the board than it is doing this, and I thought it's not worth the cost of me paying however much it is as a setup fee for them to solder on 21 devices on a board. And if it's faulty, then I've got 21 boards. I mean, I've got 5 boards with 21, 22 pieces each on them, which is no good. So what do? Unsolder them all? But I'd rather do it myself, and then once it's proof of concept, then if people want to, they can get them made. So I'm just going to get a bit of solder. I might have to pause this and hunt for some more of these because I'm pretty sure I've just about run out of this one. I will be right back. Okay, crisis averted. I found another one. I have a bag full of them somewhere. I bought them a long time ago on AliExpress. You don't go through them fast. And I've got about a bag with about another 4 or so in them. I'll have to hunt them out because that's the last one I know where it is, or the relative area to where it is that I could find. But that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of solder paste. You don't use it. You only use a dab on each one. But anyway, we will carry on, and I will start doing these. And one thing I will say is sometimes you find with solder paste in these tubes, you can't push it. If you're using the syringe to push them down into the ends of them, you'll find that when you try to push it down, it won't go. It's really hard. It's because it's probably crystallined in the tube. So what I find I do is I just, either with a soldering iron, hold it on there for a few seconds on the tube and heat the tube up. Or with hot air, just heat that tube up a little bit and get it warm. And then you'll find when you push it down, it actually runs out really, really smooth. Alright, so that's just a bit of a tip there in case you're having problems with it. Right, so now we got you. Get you. Just set you on here. So he's on there. It's about where I want him. Out the way. Iron's up to speed. And what I do is I put a little bit of solder on the end of the iron, not a lot. And then I just hold it down and just gently touch the end of it. So I'll move the board around so I can get to them easy enough. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it, just enough to hold it. And then stop and let it cool. See if it moves. I'm just gently tapping it with the tweezers and he's not moving, so that one is down. And then what I can do now is, if I want to, I could pull the magnifier over and check it, or tack down the other ones and then check it, which is what I will do. So I'm going to do these other two, and then I will check them and make sure they're all soldered. And that's those three. And as I say, because they are so wide apart, it's easy to do. And I mean, these are 3 times magnifying hobby glasses, which is what I use. This is a bit more. This is a 5 times, I think. But with the pair of them, I'll turn the light on so I can see what I'm doing. But with the pair of them, I should be able to see if everything looks fine. See, now looking at this, I'm a little bit off with it. It needs to go a little bit further forward. So I should have actually checked with that before I soldered those 2 back ones. And that's what I'm saying, it's such a fine thing to do. And if this becomes too much of an issue, what I'll do is I can take this off with a set of tweezers. I have a set of hot tweezers that I am trialing out. That I bought these weren't free or anything. I actually bought these because I needed them to do a job I did a while ago, and these were a godsend to doing surface mounted LEDs, and these are tiny LEDs. You may have seen the video. It was a video on some tail lights I had to repair, and yeah, that was a mission. I don't know if I'm happy with that. I might have to fire those up and just take this one off. Mind you, I could probably heat it up with hot air and move it. I'd rather get that where I'm happy with it than not. I mean, the tab is soldered. On all 3 pads, because when I designed this, I got it to put the hand solder pads on it, not the pads for machine soldering. So the pads are slightly bigger, and that's why I decided I wanted to do that, because I thought, well, my chances are I'm not going to get it square. And I've just proven myself right. So anyway, so that's number 1. So I mean, that's how easy it is. It's not hard. But as I said, as I was saying just then, the most important thing is make sure it's lined up. So I think this next one, I'll do the first one. I'll check it with the magnifying glass, and if it all looks good, then I'll tack down the other 2. So I say, you just want one at a time, because these things go everywhere when they come out of the packet. And they're quite easy to know which way you're doing it, because the feet are actually flush one side and not the other. Yeah, that one's a lot better. Lined up a lot better. Right, we can hold him down and make sure he is soldered flat to the board. Right, I can solder up the other 2 pins. I'll just check that. Just make sure that looks okay. Yep, that looks okay. I just need to get that a bit clean. And if you're not happy with it, just a bit of flux, hold it down and just run your iron over the top, and that will tidy them up. So, yep, that's fine. They're not perfectly square, but they are on the pads. And that's those two, so, sorry, I'll try and get it so you can see them. And that's those two at the very end there. As I said, they're not perfectly straight, but they are on the pads, and I might try the other way around. As I was saying, the other thing you can do is, when you pad, just put a little bit of solder on it like that, and then what you do is when you put it on, you hold it, you heat it up, and you slide it into it. Okay guys, so I've finally got through and got all those done. All those protection diodes are on there. It's not pretty, but they're all connected to the pads. If you want pretty, I'd say order the boards. order them and get them to assemble them for you, because that's about easiest way to get them pretty. The next thing will be the next lowest, which is going to be the resistors, the caps, and the sockets, and then transistors and so forth. Alright, so I will carry on doing this, and I will get back to you later. So guys, there we are. That's the end of part 1 of the build for the Pico Tester Revision B. And check in next time for part 2, where I finish it off and we run it through its tests, and you can actually see what this does. Hopefully you're enjoying this series of videos I'm doing, and as I said before, if you want to, I have a buy me a coffee, and you can jump on that link and make a donation, which helps me to further the projects and help pay for the materials. Alright, so guys, as always, have a great day, have a great week, until part 2. Ciao.